Title: Steamboat Willie's New Reality. Steamboat Willie stepped off his shabby old boat, a makeshift home that had seen better days, and took a deep breath of the salty air. It was a new beginning, a chance to reinvent himself after losing his job at the big unnamed corporation that had defined his life for so long. He adjusted his slightly worn sailor hat and surveyed his surroundings on Public Domain Avenue, a quirky, rundown street where the charm of nostalgia clashed with the chaos of modernity. As he strolled down the sidewalk, a familiar figure caught his eye. Leaning against a lamppost was Minnie Mouse, her trademark polka dots now a distant memory replaced by something much skimpier. She was chatting up a passing car, her charm still intact but the context decidedly different. Willie blinked, trying to reconcile the image of his childhood friend with the reality before him. "Minnie. Is that really you?" he called, incredulity coloring his voice. Well. If it isn't my old friend Willie," she replied, a sly smile creeping across her face. "Times have changed, sweetheart. You gotta make a living somehow." Willie shook his head, a mixture of disbelief and concern washing over him. Just a few steps further down the street, he spotted tobacco-chewing Pete, leaning against a brick wall, surrounded by a group of shady characters. The sight was jarring. "Hey, Willie. Got a light? Or are you still stuck in that corporate bubble?" Pete called out, spitting a stream of tobacco juice onto the pavement. "Pete, are you dealing drugs?" Willie asked, his heart sinking. "You could say that," Pete replied with a grin. "Just trying to make a buck, you know. The economy's rough." Willie sighed, realizing that the idyllic memories he held of his childhood friends were quickly disintegrating. He continued walking, hoping for something resembling normalcy, but the street only grew more chaotic. Suddenly, a familiar slurred voice broke through the noise. "Oh, bother." It was Winnie the Pooh, staggering out of a nearby bar with a honey jar in one hand and a bottle of whiskey in the other. "If I can't find my honey, I might as well find a nice lady for companionship." Willie facepalmed, bewildered. "Pooh, is that really the best idea?" "Why not?" Pooh replied, grinning and swaying slightly. "A little love and a lot of honey never hurt anyone." Steamboat Willie watched in disbelief as Pooh stumbled over to Minnie, who was now entertaining a couple of customers. The sight was surreal, a circus of nostalgia gone awry, and Willie couldn't help but feel a sense of loss for the simpler times. The chaos reached a fever pitch when a police siren wailed in the distance. Panic erupted as everyone scrambled for cover. Willie, caught in the crossfire, turned to Minnie, who was now playfully flipping her hair and laughing as if it were just another day. "Is this really your life now?" he asked, struggling to process the scene unfolding before him. "Gotta do what you gotta do, Willie." Minnie replied with a wink. "You'll find your way too. Just embrace the madness." "Madness? This is a circus," he exclaimed, exasperated. As the cacophony of voices and laughter surrounded him, Winnie trying to convince a confused passerby to join him for drinks, and Pete trying to negotiate a deal while chewing his tobacco, Willie felt a strange sense of belonging. In this bizarre and dysfunctional community, he was no longer just an outsider. He was part of something uniquely chaotic. Later that night, Willie sat on the steps of his boat, watching the antics of his neighbors. Minnie was laughing with Pooh, and Pete was regaling anyone who would listen with wild tales of his latest escapades. Willie couldn't help but chuckle, shaking his head in disbelief. Maybe this isn't so bad after all, he thought. Cheers to Public Domain Avenue. With a newfound sense of acceptance, he raised an imaginary glass to the absurdity of it all. Life, he realized, could be bizarre, messy, and surprisingly entertaining when you embrace the madness. And as the laughter echoed down the street, Steamboat Willie found himself finally at home.